Welcome to Let's Talk Autism. I was just getting caught up with my buddy Shannon Penrod here.
Yes.
I'm Nancy Oswald-Jackson, for those of you that
Shannon
don't know.
Penrod.
I'm very printy here today.
You're gorgeous.
Well, thank
You're
you,
rocking
darling.
the
You're
whole thing.
always gorgeous.
Oh my gosh,
You
I feel
are.
like I'm dressed to go do laundry
I'm
today.
telling
those days?
these back to school is still kind of, aren't we all kind of still in that back to school mode? And I don't think I've ever been this busy. Is September and October are
it's
just
very
like,
busy.
and then we've got Denim and Diamonds coming
I
up, the
know.
11th annual.
Yes, which is amazing. And see, for me, every year I feel like I get a little bit smarter and a little stupider. And in that, the crush of the holiday treadmill.
Right.
I start thinking earlier, because I figure if I start earlier, that it spaces it out a little bit
Don't
more.
even talk about the holidays. I
Oh
haven't
no,
thought
I
about those.
already feel like I'm on that treadmill.
Okay.
That already, I'm like, it is
I
September
can't believe
20.
you're thinking about that. I'm thinking about our
Oh.
Halloween costumes.
Well, I have to be thinking
Yours
about
and
that
mine.
because I know I have to be thinking about that because we always do the Festival of Toys, and this is the time of year where
Right,
we have to get
right.
all that for the holiday. And we have a
Yes, and
sensitive
you always
Santa thing
organize
coming
that,
up.
which is great.
And so, it's like you start doing Denim and Diamonds the day after it's
That
over.
ends, yeah.
And so we are knee deep. If you have
Yeah.
toys that you're interested in, you want us to get those toys on and talking about them, let us know because we'll reach out to those manufacturers. But I have to start today with just a little bit of an update. We started the last hour with this too, that last night Governor Brown here in the state of California signed a bill. It is SB 1072. It was sponsored by Senator Mendoza. It is known as the School Bus Safety for All bill. This is in response to, it was just over a year ago, the tragedy of Paul Lee, the almost 19-year-old young man who got left on a school bus all day long because a substitute bus driver, neglected to walk the bus. And when we leave human error in the mix, tragedy can happen, and it did in this case. Paul was left on a very hot bus in very hot weather for over 9 hours.
A young man with autism.
Nonverbal with autism,
Yeah.
so he couldn't help himself, and he lost his life. Such a tragedy. And so a group of people have worked very hard to get a bill passed that would prevent his death and other deaths in his name. And we really want to give a specific shout out to Laura Bablove-Quinn, who was a mom who saw this. She didn't know Paul, wasn't friends with the family. She saw this and said, enough. Not only did she really spearhead the vigil that we went and covered, but made sure that this bill got written, made sure that it got sponsors, made sure that it got passed. And right now, Laura is with Senator Mendoza in the city of Whittier, which is where Paul lost his life. And at the top of the next hour, as soon as we're done with the show here, there is going to be a press conference talking about the bill and what happened and why it's so important here in the state of California. And as California goes, other
So
states
goes the rest of the nation.
So it's important that what it does is it creates, there's an alarm. It's a $150 technology, an alarm at the back of the bus that when the bus stops and parks, the alarm goes off, and it cannot be shut off until the bus driver goes to the back and turns it off, which will mean that the bus driver will have to walk the bus. They won't have the option of forgetting, and that's, in Paul's case, that would have saved his life. We know, I was talking to Laura last night, that 5 kids a week in the United States are left on buses. My first day of kindergarten, I got left on the bus and was going back to the garage, and the bus driver did not know that I was there. So I know firsthand how it happens. My very first day of school
And imagine
ever.
the panic. I mean, I can only imagine what you went through, Shannon. And
I was verbal.
It's so heartbreaking. But have you had Laura on
We've
the
not
show?
had Laura on. In fact,
Let's
we
get
invited her
on.
to come on today, but
but
she
soon.
needed to. We'll
Yeah,
get
she's
Laura
got a
on the
lot
show.
going on. And
An
what about,
amazing autism mom.
is it Senator Mendoza?
Senator Mendoza?
Let's get him on too. I want to
Absolutely.
really applaud this lawmaker, and I want to really applaud Laura. Just our hearts go out to Paul's family.
Yes, of course.
The only way sometimes we can make sense of tragedy is to utilize that tragedy to affect change.
Exactly.
And it's really sometimes the only way to make sense when these things happen.
Absolutely.
And as one of my friends, or one of my spiritual leaders, Mirabai Starr, says, you want to find your calling, follow your deepest wound.
There you go.
And that's the way we can change the world.
Absolutely.
And so just kudos to Senator Mendoza, to Laura, and, love and blessings to Paul Lee's family.
Absolutely.
And to his memory.
But I want to tell you guys that you can watch this press conference and this ceremony live. We were invited to come and cover it live. Unfortunately, we couldn't with the time constraints, and we already had a show planned here. But they are going to do a Facebook Live, and there is the address that you want to go to, or you can just go on your Facebook and put in School Bus Safety for All, like that page.
And is it named the Paul Lee Bill? Is that also what it's named? That's
fantastic.
It's
known as the Paul Lee Bill.
That's fantastic.
And you can watch Laura and you can watch Senator Mendoza talking about this at straight up 12. When we're done here, we'll remind you to go and watch that, because they'll be doing a Facebook Live.
We got to update that slide there. Your hair hasn't been that color in
everything,
how many years?
Everything. The opening of the show has me with dark hair.
Yeah. How many years has it been now?
Almost, it's 3.5.
Okay.
I know.
All right. We're going to do that one
please.
day. Yeah, I'm going to learn my new computer too.
That's our best.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Into the news?
Yes, let's get right into the news,
Okay.
because we've got a great guest who's coming up.
We
want to
do.
tell
I'm very excited about this.
Garen Gaskin. I hope I'm saying it right.
I don't know, but I'm sure that we'll learn.
Yes.
It's spelled Gerin. And yes, he has this amazing app and some new plans for some programs that are they're research-based curriculums, and they're so exciting. Iko and Igor is one we're going to talk about, as well as some new ones that they've got in development. So we are going to get to them. We're excited to get to them. And but first, we've got some developments in the news that are exciting on the research front, and some disturbing stories. One about a London-based group, actually a Hungarian firm, but the BBC investigated, of a Hungarian firm selling training to cure and treat autism in London. Horrifying practices, according to the BBC, that have been exposed that purport to cure people with autism, during which clients are subjected to shouting, intimidation, and nothing short of torture.
Yeah, it's really very disconcerting. Right. And charging them thousands of dollars to families, saying that we're going to do this. They had somebody go undercover and pretend to be an adult who's on the autism spectrum, and they had a hidden camera, and it is horrifying, because I think this is one of the things, and I know you've been through so much this last year, where we see people who try to take advantage of people who are in their greatest moment of need, and there's a special place in hell for those people. But want to make people aware of the fact that, this is one of the reasons why we have so much red tape in the United States, why there's more and more legislation to try to make sure that the people who are working with your kids are actually trained and certified to work with them. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's been really hard for insurance and everything, but that is the reason why, and why it is so super important that you know who you're dealing with and what it is that they're doing. Of course, I always advocate that whenever anyone is working with your child, you have a camera so that you can watch things. And I used to invite the therapist into my home, and I would go, I have cameras here, and I'm not going to tell you where they are, but I am watching and I'm listening. And then I would later on come out and comment on something so that they knew that I was watching and listening, because my son's my most precious thing to me in my life. So that was the first thing. Therapists would come through the door, and I would say, just to let you know.
Oh, I never did that. I should have done that. That would have been.
Oh my gosh. I was like,
And did you actually tape a lot of it?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
And I sat and watched so much of it.
Okay.
I would be in the other room doing my work.
You're so good with ABA.
But no, I say that to people that I think it's a great way to learn. The cameras, the nanny cameras, it was video and audio, and I listened to everything. And so when I went to clinic, and there were times when there were therapists that were not up to what we thought, and I would say, and this is what they said, and you had proof. And now for some people that meant there was more training, that when the people were worth it, but there were a couple of people that we went, no, we're not working with them anymore. So yes, no, I think I advocate that for everybody, the nanny cam.
Well, this points to just how often I think families with children with autism are taken advantage of. And I mean, I've tried some treatments that a lot of people call, very fringe and downright dangerous. But some of those fringe treatments actually did help Wyatt, and I don't consider them as fringe. I did a lot of research on them.
Yeah.
A lot of the biomedical stuff.
Right.
But
Well, there are people who think that a gluten-free diet is fringe.
exactly.
So let's
exactly.
be clear
So
about that.
yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But I want to point out the name of this company, Stabile Pont Technologia. Stabile Pont Technologia. So if anybody out there listening ever hears that name, please stay away from them.
But
They're
I'm sure
based
they've
near
changed the
Budapest.
name
Yeah,
by now.
yeah. And it cost, what is 3,500 pounds? I don't know what that translates to. But one of the trainers said to the man who was undercover, "I'll go and slap you. You want I slap you, or you want I punch you?" This is just totally unacceptable. This is criminal, and hopefully these people will be put away and made to pay for what they have been doing.
And I watched that video when he says that. I mean, there's
Really?
video of him saying, you want I slap you, and it's because he's saying, this is how he's getting eye contact. He goes, look at me, look at me, look at me. And he kind of does something to his leg, and he says, or you want I can slap you, or you want I can punch you, to get eye contact. And let me just say, please don't anybody write to anybody and say that has anything to do with ABA.
Exactly.
Experts came forward and said this is not any training that anybody ever approved ever
Absolutely
for autism. It has
not.
nothing to do with
Absolutely
ABA.
not.
Ever. Run if you see
Yeah.
somebody doing something like that. Okay, and we've got two other research things here. You want to talk about the Israeli
Genes.
research?
Sure.
Or do you want to talk about the T-shirt gene first?
Well, we could talk about the Israeli. Ben Gurion researchers make progress in understanding which genes cause the disorder. Now, this gets into a lot of science speak down here, but the bottom line on this one, the overall synopsis on the story, is that they've gotten a step closer to understanding the genetic basis of the disability, and basically what they've done is they have found certain genes that they believe tie into autism. I mean, that's really the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, but one of the things, and we have a very wordy thing here that we're not even going to attempt to read to you. But one of the things that I was reading about is that this study seems to show, for those of you, and we had a question earlier today about somebody saying, what is the incidence of, if you've already had one child with autism, what is your likelihood of having a second one?
Right.
This study seems to point to that it's not as necessarily common as we previously thought. That the mutation of the gene isn't necessarily as hereditary as we thought, which was what I read about it. So we're going to keep you posted on this, but you can find out more about this online if you're really
if you're a science freak, because
digging deep.
Yeah, and basically it says that there's a unique genomic signature in the genes that was shaped by negative selection, an evolutionary process that removes disruptive mutations from genes over generations. So if you understand that.
Right.
But it's a negative selection process that they've isolated. So, but yeah, you can go ahead and read about that if you're a science geek. You want to talk about the T-shirt
Yeah,
gene?
let's talk a little bit about the T-shirt gene. That they're calling it that because the actual name of it is something that it's TSHZ3, and which kind of looks like T-shirt. So they found a link between this particular gene and kidney issues. And this is particularly fascinating because in reading about it, it felt like this is something that they stumbled upon, and it is so succinct that they all got very excited. That this, because as we narrow this down and we get to see, okay, I think this was shared with you that GARD has now phenotyped autism. Did you know that? I didn't know that until a couple of weeks ago.
I didn't know they'd phenotyped it definitively. I knew they were working on it.
GARD has definitively phenotyped autism.
Explain what phenotype for those who don't know.
So because for years we've been trying to get to the place where we all know your son has autism, my son has autism, and in some ways they are alike, and in some ways they are very different. And their story, how they began to descend into autism has some similarities, but they're different. And that from time to time you will stumble across somebody and you'll recognize your child and be like, oh, my child has the same kind of autism as your child.
Yeah.
Right? And if we could find out what all the similarities are and say, okay, there's this type of autism and there's this type of autism and this type of autism, we would begin to see, well, what kinds of problems does this child end up having health-wise, so that we could say to the doctor, you need to be looking for this. Case in point, one of the things that CARD has discovered is that there is a certain type of autism in which the kids regress into autism, and then they have trouble catching a ball. And those children then ultimately will have problems learning how to ride a bike, learning how to tie their shoes, and their handwriting will be bad.
So there's the motor processing is affected.
And that there is a hand-eye coordination thing that and a balance thing that goes hand in hand. And what they've discovered is that if they really drill down on the catching the ball, that those other skills
will fall into line.
Right,
great.
And
it's definitely not the type of autism my son has.
But that is the type of autism that my son has. And I had a conversation with my son about it, and he was like, well, then let's go back to working on catching the ball.
Wow.
Which is great,
How
right?
aware is
And was so willing to get on a bike again, because he's not the best bike rider.
Yeah.
But so this study is showing us that there's a connection between a certain gene with autism and having kidney problems. How beneficial would it be to you to know, oh, and you go and you get the genetic panel and you know that you have this, and then you would know that you need to take your kid to a urologist, that they have found that there is a part of the ureter that is different. So what we don't know is, what does that end up being? Is that a child who has more kidney infections? Do they have more? Perhaps it's a child that has more bladder infections, and so they ended up taking more antibiotic, which then exacerbated some of their other problems. It's this kind of information that as we phenotype autism and start to link together, we are going to get better at treating autism, and we're going to get better at treating the whole child. And medically treating, for those of you who are like, oh, I think that there's a medical component to this, this is the key that unlocks that. And CARD is really doing the behavioral end of it, because they're taking data on, if we teach this skill, what else does it affect, and being able to look at that across more than 1,000 children.
That's
it gets
amazing.
Exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, very exciting.
I get very thrilled. So anyway, in this particular study, they looked at not only mice, but they looked at children. And they saw that with the mice model in particular, that with the T-shirt mutation, they not only had kidney problems, but the mice had displayed learning difficulties. That these things went hand in hand. And then they went back and looked at children who also had this, and they had an autism diagnosis. So it gets really, really powerful. And the lead researcher, Professor Laurent Fasano in Marseille, who discovered the T-shirt gene in fruit flies in 1991, he said, the sooner the better. Early detection of this new condition will favor early behavioral therapies, which is good for kids and their family.
That just blows my mind. How do you discover something in fruit flies?
I know, in a kidney in a fruit fly. You got to have some powerful microscope glasses.
I'm telling you. Okay.
Right? Okay, so you can find out more about that. That's on Science Daily this week.
All right.
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Lots going on.
Lots
and not all of it. There's a lot going on in the news right now, too.
Yes.
One of the things.
Well, obviously, the presidential campaign is just huge.
Well, and one of the things that I promised that I was going to talk about last Thursday and I never got to was that I thought that there was a really important speech that was given last Thursday. It was by Secretary Clinton. And I would encourage people to go and look at what her speech was on inclusive economy. There was a whole, I know some of you watch and go, when are they going to talk about autism? And why, and Secretary Clinton put out an autism plan.
Yes, she has.
But all of my friends on Facebook after they watched the debate said, why did nobody bring up autism? Why is autism not a part of a conversation? And somebody asked me that this morning, and I said, you know why? Because mainstream media isn't covering it. It is being talked about. And we're not mainstream media, but we're here. So I'm going to talk about this, that if you want to know when autism is being talked about, and I particularly like it when there is a discussion and it's about everything going on and autism is involved in that. And that's what I got last Thursday. It's online. You can search it and look up Inclusion Economy, Clinton, and there's a whole speech about our economy and about the fact that sometimes women have been discriminated against in the job market, and how there has to be fair pay. If you're doing the same job, you have to get paid the same thing. She talks about that. She talks about small businesses, and then she says, but there's a whole section of our economy that is not being catered to and utilized, and she says it's people with disabilities, and talks about some of the people in the world who have added so much that have had a disability, and then she says, and let's talk about autism, and puts forth a plan called Autism Works. I think people need to look at it.
Yeah, she does have a comprehensive autism plan. So the media may not bring this up, so it's incumbent upon us to go and read these things and to educate people, because there's a lot. I'm sorry, on Facebook, the amount of misunderstanding and lack of education.
There's a lot of negativity. And let me say this, that, you know, for anybody who is on the Trump side, and you feel like, oh, you know, she just talked about Clinton, let's give fair time. That I really want to hear, when I say to you with all sincerity, that I really want to hear and be covering things that the Trump campaign is saying about jobs for people with autism too. Please, if you are a Trump supporter, tell them we want to cover
any
that.
kind of treatment plan, insurance
any
coverage,
kind of treatment plan.
what he has.
I want to hear what the plan is, and we will cover it here. We absolutely will. And we've put forays out to the Trump campaign saying, come on and talk about your plan. We would love to talk about it. We've not had any response. So, you know, that's where we're at. But in any case, we've got a great guest today.
Yes, we do.
I'm very excited. We hope that we're saying it right. Garen Gaskin. We're going to be talking about Aiko, I want to get it right, Aiko and Igor. Very, very exciting. I know you guys are going to love this. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to bring him in here and continue on with our show.
Okay, great.
Stick with us.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions, and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No. I need it. I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But
it?
the reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it. In therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school. It got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. So I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school, the way that kids?
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying, it was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Fortunately, not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. Certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person from my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me, because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
will
hope
tell
it's not the
people.
first
And
thing,
you know what?
but-
In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know that.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much, because I'll tell you anytime.
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
It's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm gonna try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
Well, today is the One Hope Act Today for military families, 10K and 5K run, walk, and family fun festival.
Thanks for coming out to support this awesome cause.
What I'm trying to accomplish here is to get more people involved, more people to be aware of autism as a disorder, so that they can be more involved in this effort to help people find resources.
Pull that belly button in, get a nice balance there.
This is an incredible event. I'm very passionate about it. Autism is affecting so many kids across the United States, and I also support our military.
2, 3, 4.
My name's Gunnery Sergeant Sean Tajma. I work with the School of Infantry West. I'm currently running with 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I personally involved with this because my son Jacob has autism. I just want to say thanks to ACT Today for what they're doing to help my family and other military families with autism.
Here we go. Let's hear it for the 2nd Light Infantry.
Some of the main sponsors here. Of course, One Hope Wine is the title sponsor.
What we do is we donate 50% of our profits back to different partner charities, one of them being ACT Today, that does a fantastic job.
ACT Today is very dear to my heart because when my husband was deployed, they were there when we didn't know how we were going to make things happen. They give so much to the military family, and it comes at a time when you just don't know how you're going to make ends meet. So to me, it's more than just an event, and it's more than just a grant. It's a gift.
All right, you guys, have we gone over the rules?
Thank you all to the teams, to the individuals that donated to this fantastic cause out here again this year. The event got larger.
People ask me why military families with autism, why does ACT Today have that as a special program? I'll tell you why. Because our military families should not have to fight 2 battles. One, to protect our country, and another, to get services for their children. They move so often. Every time they move, they have to start again. We owe it to them. And it just was a tremendous success. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking part in it.
Check this out, Marine. See all these wonderful people? All you gotta do next year, Marine, Devil Dog, 2 for 100, sign up with me, staff or an email, and I'm gonna take you out here, do a little 5K, little PT early in the morning. After that, you got the time of your life. After that, I might even be able to get you a letter of appreciation, maybe a little libo time. How's that sound?
Sign up for next year because this is an event that comes on and on. It's a
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself, how on earth can I afford ABA therapy for my child? Well, the short answer is you can't. No one can. It's really expensive and it's overwhelming to most families. But the story doesn't end there, fortunately. The first thing that I want you to think about is tapping insurance resources. So many insurance companies are paying for ABA therapy right now. So that's your first best bet. Make sure and see if your insurance company is providing benefits for ABA therapy and check back often. Now, if you see that you don't have insurance right now for ABA, don't panic, there are still other resources. The next place to go is to your local support groups and ask them what local resources there are. That's a great place to ask for information because often states and even counties have support for ABA. And then beyond that, you might consider applying for grants. There are many fabulous grants out there to help you to get support for your ABA therapy. But most important, it's absolutely essential that you get ABA services for your child. We know that that's essential for all of our children and that you won't be able to do it on your own. So seek out those services and support groups that will help you to fund your ABA journey. It's really important to remember that all behaviors happen for a reason.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
As promised, we are back, and we are joined by Garen Gaskin. I think we mistakenly said he is with us, and it is a beautiful
and
she.
this lovely, beautiful
that
she
is with us.
came to
And Garen, first of all, we want to just talk a little bit about your background. Tell us about your studies and your interest in autism and how it developed.
Sure. So my interest in autism spawns from my brother. He got a diagnosis at the age of 3, and I became really interested in effective ways to teach children with autism. I worked with adults and children on the spectrum and children that are at risk for autism for the past 10 years.
And you're in school right now. You're an advanced graduate student at Claremont Graduate University, studying developmental psychology.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
Yes, it is really exciting. Yeah, I'm at the final stages of launching my dissertation and collecting data, and we're actually doing a study looking at parent-child relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, it's an online intervention. It's really brief, but it should be really, I'm hoping that it'll be enjoyable for parents.
Okay.
And that it's about under an hour to complete.
And are you interested in having more people participate in that?
Absolutely.
Could you use a few people? Okay.
Yes,
we
we
will
could definitely use
Where
people.
can we send people so that they can participate in that if they're interested?
Yeah, so you can email me
Mhm.
at either Garen@seabeneath.org, and I can actually give you guys a URL to the survey as
Great.
well.
And we'll make sure that we do that. And
Okay.
See Beneath, by the way, you guys, is SEE Beneath.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we see beneath the autism. Exactly.
So let's talk about this really, really great app you have, this animated video series that was developed. You developed it with a close friend. You met Casey Hoffman and also Jim Turner, and you created the Iko and Igor pilot in 2011, and your nonprofit See Beneath became a nonprofit in 2012. Tell us about the Iko, spelled, is that the way I pronounce it? Aiko or Iko?
Aiko.
Aiko.
Yeah.
A-I-K-O, and Igor, E-G-O-R. Tell us about that that program.
Sure. So Iko is the purple whale character, and then Igor is the orange blowfish character. And we created the characters based upon some children that we actually worked with when they were really young. And one of our little girls that we worked with, her name was Iko, and she would carry around a purple whale. And we just fell in love with her. And then another little girl that we've worked with previously, her first word was Igor. And so it was just like a really big deal when, experiencing that with her. So we decided to name the characters that, and we created the pilot. We got feedback from researchers at UCSD and some parents about ways to improve the video content and make it easier for kids to learn.
Tell us about some of those learning opportunities, how they're embedded at specific times in the video.
Sure. So the animation, you can either just watch it as a video by itself, so you can watch segments of the video or the entire 10-minute video. And that's like our play together function. But we also have another function called learn together. And in that function, it's the same video content as before, except we've embedded these bubble times, we call them, but they are learning prompts for the parent and child to practice developmental skills. So after the characters model a certain behavior, then instructions pop up for the parent to then practice the skill with the child. They then enter data about how their child performed while they were practicing that skill, and then the video turns back on to provide reinforcement for the child. So we've kind of taken principles of applied behavior analysis and embedded those, and then we took a lot of the techniques from video modeling, so not having very many background distractions and trying to really over exaggerate the social interactions between the characters. And yeah, I think it's really interesting because when adults watch it, it's very boring and slow, and because there's just not much going on, and it's really it's characters kind of modeling appropriate behavior that we want to see in our kids, right? So, but whenever kids are in front of it, they are just totally, involved and really engaged. And so I think that it's nice that we have the options for parents depending on how their child is feeling that day and what things the parent's interested in practicing. But one of the great things is that we have a pre-questionnaire before, when a parent first opens up a chapter or an episode rather. So if you were to open up episode 2, and it'll go through and kind of ask you what skills your child needs to practice, and that can be used as a way for you to know what to practice down the road.
Great.
Right.
And what age is this really targeted at, or age range is it targeted at?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we are targeting children. Obviously, the American Psychological Association doesn't want, or the American Pediatric Association does not want children under the age of 2 viewing screen media. So we start at 2, and then we say to about your developmental age of 7, but that's obviously developmental, right? It's not chronological. So being kind of aware of that. I guess what our go-to is we say, download the app because it's free, and then have your child watch it and see if it's something that they enjoy. I know a lot of therapists, before we had the interactive quality with the bubble times and the data collection, they would just use it as reinforcers for, at the end of a session or something like that. But the great part is that you can, once you have access to all the video content, you can pick which skills you want to practice. There's 3 skills and 1 song that allow like sensory social routines. So you practice kind of like the gestures and songs. So that's kind of our standard skills for each episode, but then we also have a free song that's just for fun for kids and parents to engage with.
And so the app is free, and we need to let everybody know that, so you can download the app. It's entirely free, and the first chapter, the first in the series, they're not really chapters, the first episode.
Yeah.
The first episode is free.
Yes.
So that you can try it out and see whether you like it. Then if you decide, hey, this is really cool, and I think that people will, because we're all looking for ways in which we can maximize the amount of hours and opportunities that we're working with our kids, right?
Absolutely.
And we say that all the time on the show, but a lot of parents go, I don't really know how to do that, right?
Sure, it's difficult.
Right? It's overwhelming.
It's really difficult.
But so this is a great way. This is something because it's got those two different features to it. So when therapy ends and you're going into the kitchen and you got to start dinner,
and you're getting your child, they're off on their, electronic device.
Right. So
they could
instead,
be doing this.
you give them the electronic device and they're watching the video, right? And they like to watch things repetitively, which it goes in our favor when this is concerned. So you're getting dinner together, they're watching the video, and then maybe after dinner, and when you're trying to do the wind down time, when you still want to be maximizing opportunity, you sit and watch the same video with them and go through the skills with it. So you're interacting with your child and you're maximizing their care. So when you want to buy, the first in the series comes for free, and then when you want to buy the others in the series, you said it's just $1.99 to buy the next in the series. So it's not a huge. First of all, you're gonna try it to see whether you like it and whether it works for you and your child. But then if you decide you do like it, just know that it's not this big, oh my gosh, how are we going to afford this?
Right.
And right now you have the first 3 episodes available, and 4 through 6 are in the works, coming to us a little bit later on, which I know people will love hearing that. Let's kind of pivot now. You mentioned that you're doing your study for your dissertation, but there's another study that that this is involved with it as well, correct? That's more on the technology end. Tell us about that study.
Yeah, so we developed a brief survey, and we are hoping to get people in the local area to come in for focus groups or to interviews either on the phone or in person, just so we can get a better understanding of how parents are using technology with their kids, and if to see if our app is really meeting the needs of the families, because it's really interesting. It's really easy to say, oh, well, we're using evidence-based principles and we're incorporating them into this and it should work, but we really do want feedback from parents and to see what's working and what's not working.
So if you're in the San Diego or Los Angeles area, you can participate in that. Who do they need to talk to about doing that?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say where we can get a hold of you again so that they'll know.
Sure. So it's Garen@seabeneath.org.
We're going to need to spell all of that out for people because they're all interesting spellings.
Sure.
So let's spell it out, and maybe Samantha can be listening as well and put it up on the screen for us when we're done.
So it's GERIN and then CSEEBENEATH.org.
Okay.
Okay.
And they can also learn more about Aiko and Igor by going to www.aiko and Igor, EGOR.org.
And I don't think there can be any doubt that this is where therapy is going.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's in denial about that, let's all wake up a little bit and know this is where therapy is going, because it makes sense. First of all, our kids like the technology. We know that they learn from it,
and it requires not necessarily a body in the room that costs a lot of money.
Right, and we know that we want our kids to be getting 30 and 40 hours a week, but that you want to maximize every single hour. So if they're gonna have the technology in their hands, let's do it mindfully and have it be useful. So you are also fundraising right now to be able to do other projects, because you see this, you're at the forefront of this, right? You see this and you're wanting to also further develop games and things like that to go along with this. So tell us about what you're seeking for your fundraising, in case there's somebody listening that's like, well, I want to be involved in it.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to share. So right now we're fundraising to create a game. We've gotten feedback from parents that they think that having an additional way to practice skills would be a great way to kind of have the child practice independently. because what we've done in the parent-child learn together function is that a parent has to be there and answer kind of multiplication questions to make sure that the parent is with the child, because we want to make sure that the data we're collecting about the child is valid and
Makes sense.
real.
And it does take data, and we want to talk about that in a second, but finish talking about this.
Sure. So also, like we were saying, the data that we collect right now is just coming to us, and so we want to make that available to the families and the educators that use the app. So we're fundraising for that as well. And we would really like to have, you have your community and your network, and you know people that when you see something, you know that people can benefit from that. So we're trying to incorporate like a sharing mechanism so that if I know, or if you know that I would love it, you can email it to me, and then it's not necessarily, it's something that can happen in the moment and not something that you then have to put on your plate to do later, and add to your ongoing list of things.
So how can people help you with your fundraising efforts? How do they get in touch with you? Do they email you?
Emailing is great. We're also at like all San Diego autism events.
I always see you when we're at events. I don't know how you and I have never met, because when I think there's that down moment when you go and tour other booths, and I've been to your booth and you weren't there, and you've been to my booth and I wasn't there. But I always see everything I'm at. I'm like, there they are. Which is great. I mean, you're getting out there, which is fabulous.
Well, best of luck to you, and I'm sure a lot of our families will be checking this out, and I'm really excited to see it. And I just want to commend you for you were inspired by your relationship with your brother. How old is your brother now?
He's 35.
Okay, how's he doing?
He's good. He's good. He lives with my family, my parents and my grandma, and he is really sweet. He loves telling jokes. He loves smiling. He loves laughing.
Wonderful, though, that you were inspired by being his sister to work in this field, that you've really taken that and made it into a positive. So Shannon and I really respect you for that.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, and wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, thank you.
And again, so for when people want to download the app, they can go and look up Aiko and Igor, Aiko AIKO, and Igor EGOR, and the company is See Beneath.